There we go. There we go. There we go. I'm seeing some solid connections across the board still. I think we figured out what the problem was last week, which is always nice. What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good with y'all? How y'all doing today? Where's my water bottle? Welcome to Hawks Hoops, your weekly NBA live show, 8 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rage, what's good with you, man? We lit. Yes, sir. We got it working for real this time. I think I figured out what was going on last week. Hey, Carrick, what's good, man? Thanks for pulling up to the stream, y'all. As y'all can see, I still need to get in a water bottle. Still using my wife's. And what makes it even worse, I was in Walmart today to get my replacement water bottle, the big black one I normally use. Pause. And I was in Walmart and I forgot to grab that. I grabbed a whole lot of other stuff, but forgot to get that. So it is what it is. I'm excited for today's episode. Of course, we're talking playoff basketball. We're going to talk about Trae Young, Rage. We're going to talk about Trae Young. We're talking about playoff basketball. And you know, the exactly, hard pause. The wildest part about playoff basketball, at least for me, is I feel like there's too many games going on at the same time. The first round of the playoffs is always hard for me because it's like must-watch games every night, and I don't have the time to necessarily be like, all right, like right now the Sixers game. Not the Sixers game is on right now. The Nets Celtics game is on like right now. And I'm doing this. And then after that, the Sixers game comes on, I think at 8. No, the Sixers game either 8 or 8:30. And like it's too many games to keep track of. So I'm gonna give you a little disclaimer right now. Did I see every game live? No. Did I do a lot of like reading and watching other podcasts, watching a lot of different highlights and stuff like that of the games I may have missed? Yes. Did I thoroughly enjoy the games I saw? 100%. Score of the Celtics Nets game right now, Carrick. I'm literally pulling it up. That's not. That's it. I think that game's on TNT. So, yeah, I've been missing games from time to time. 45-37 Nets are up. 6 minutes left in the second quarter. So we got a lot to talk about. A lot of good games that happened over this past weekend, yesterday, the day before. Wow, it is Wednesday. That's crazy. I had a 4-day weekend, so I'm feeling a little, I thought it was Tuesday for most of the day. A lot of good games. We saw a lot of things. We're going to touch on every series, some a little bit longer than others. I have a little more thoughts for some series more than others. But I'm going to go ahead and start out because it's a series that I have probably the least amount to say because they've only played one game so far, and that's also part of it. Some of these teams have only played one game. So I don't want to overthink some of these simply because they've only played one game. And I think it might be opportunity for some of these teams to show us something different, for some coaches to make some adjustments. And at the most, they've only played 2 home games, and they've been, 2 games, and they've been either home games or away games. So it's not me thinking too much into it. These are just some of my quick, immediate thoughts. Some teams we're going to go deeper in than others. I want to start out with the Bulls and the Bucks. They've only played one game so far. They play game 2. I want to say tonight they play their game 2. I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah, they play tonight at 9:30. The Bucks won game 1, 93-86. I'm going to tell y'all right now. The Bulls folded. That game 1 was the game if they were going to win a game. Now, granted, you already know how I feel. I already said going into it that this particular series was going to be a sweep. I didn't see the Bulls winning a game at all. But if they were going to win a game, they needed to win last night. They needed to win that first game, and they messed it up because when you look at the Bucks did not have a good game. The Bucks had a bad game. Middleton went 4 for 13. Drew Holiday went 6 for 16. Bobby Portis 3 for 8. Pat Connaughton 1 for 7 off the bench. Brook Lopez 7 for 14. That was pretty solid. Only person who had a good game was Giannis. Only person who showed up and had a good game was Giannis. And the Bulls couldn't capitalize. DeRozan had a horrible game. 6 for 25 is horrible. 6 for 19 from Zach LaVine. 9 for 27 from Nikola Jokic. Right? And it's not even Rage. I see you talking about some of the Frozen. I don't even think it's even that. I just think players can have a bad game. It happens. I'm sure we can probably go back and look at his regular season that he might have had a bad game sometime in the regular season. It's just for all three of your, big three, if you're the Bulls, to just basically wet the bed and have a horrible game. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the Bucks aren't doing that again. Drew Holiday's not doing that again. Chris Middleton's not doing that again. And to be honest with you, I don't think Giannis is going to do that at all because nobody can stop him. We said this going into it. When we did the playoff preview, nobody on this Bulls team could stop Giannis. And I'm scared. I don't know. This game tonight, I think Middleton's going to be locked in. Drew's going to be locked in because they know they had bad games. So I don't know. I don't know. Bulls fans, it sucks because also the thing that also sucks about it so much, Caruso was hooping. Now the box score won't show you that. His box score isn't crazy, nothing like that. But down the stretch, Caruso was having some really big plays, some really good plays. Bulls just couldn't pull through. They just couldn't pull through. And I really think they blew their one shot of winning the game. Now they may surprise me come game 3. They're in Chicago. They might go crazy. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think if they had a game to win, it was game 1 and they blew it. That was the team I didn't have much to talk about. Moving on from them, I want to talk about the Wolves Grizzlies. Now this series is 1-1. Timberwolves won that first game. I think they surprised a lot of people. I think the Timberwolves surprised a lot of people. I think they definitely surprised the Memphis Grizzlies. They won that first game. If you didn't get a chance to see it or not unfamiliar, they won 130-117 game 1. Then Minnesota came back and had an amazing, then Memphis came back, had an amazing game, 124-96 in game 2. And there's a couple of things that I guess I'll take away from that. It was either game 1 or game 2. I can't remember. I think it was game 2. Way too many free throws, way too many fouls. The refs were calling everything. And I think it really messed up some the Grizzlies, what the Grizzlies try to do. They like to get out. They like to run. They're a very up and down team, and with all the free throws, you just can't get up and down. But one good thing that did come out of game 2 is they saw how good. I don't want to say his name wrong. What is his name? So in game 2, Steven Adams only plays 2 minutes and 50 seconds. I'll be completely honest with you. I watched probably the second half of that game. I should have looked up why he only played 250. I don't know if he got injured. Did Steven Adams get injured? Why did he not play? Steven Adams. You know what I mean? Y'all get the real. Steven Adams plays just 3 minutes. Why did he only play 3 minutes? Not listed on the injury report for Tuesday's game against the Jazz. Adams missed Friday's went over this. No. I don't know why he didn't play. Oh, so it was a coach's decision. He told reporters after explaining the decision, Adams replied with a classy response that proved the ultimate teammate. We want to win whatever we need to do to win. Coach, I'll be there, Jenkins said of Adams' response. Super proud of him. He's the ultimate pro. That's dope. That's even... Wait, Steven Adams broke his rotator cuff? Why am I... See, now I'm confused. Did he get injured? Or did he... This is what Coach Taylor Jenkins had to say after the game. Y'all know me. Y'all know how we do over here. Y'all gonna tap in with me. We're gonna see what he has to say. Because I'm honestly not even sure what he has to say.
Tons of discussions about, our bigs lineups and depths. Obviously, Steven had a tough start to the game with 2 early fouls. So obviously our sub patterns were completely thrown off. Needed to get another body in there. Knew that at some point X could be a factor in this series. Really proud of him to step in even in that first quarter. And then he just played so well. The spark that he brought, the team they just took off from that first quarter. It was a competitive first quarter. We had a great second quarter, and I just kind of went with my gut and said, hey, let's try to continue to ride that momentum. Start start the second quarter and continue to manage our big sub pattern as best as possible. Talked to Steven, I let him know obviously the gut decision I made. Obviously got the early foul trouble. The bench was rolling, the lineups that we had out there were rolling. He completely understood. He's like, man, we just want to win. Whatever you got to do to win, I'm here for you, coach. Whatever you need. So super proud of him. He's the ultimate pro.
That's what's up. I like that because Steven Adams has been one of my guys since back in his OKC days. I'm a big fan of Steven Adams. X is in Xavier. What is their big's name off the bench? Xavier. My brain wants to say Xavier Henry, but I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. Xavier Tillman, sorry. I don't know who Xavier Henry is off the top. Anyway, yeah, Xavier Tillman came in. He played amazing. He played 20 minutes for them. But I say all that to get to my point. Going into this series, I was like, okay, Cat's got to do a lot. And I was very curious in game one, Cat being able to bring Steven Adams out to the perimeter. Although, Adams plays big. Cat obviously is a big. But Cat has kind of a guard skill set, so he has the ability to bring him out on the perimeter. Xavier Tillman has the ability to guard that a whole lot better than Steven Adams does. And I think that throws a big wrench in what Minnesota Timberwolves were trying to do in terms of their scheme. I think a lot of their scheme was exploiting Steven Adams, which is a smart scheme. But when you have somebody like Xavier Tillman who can move a little faster, especially on the perimeter, that's one of the things that makes the Grizzlies head coach a great coach. I keep pausing before I say the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves because a lot of times I'll just say the city name, and because they're both Memphis and then Minnesota, in my brain I'm getting them back and forth. So yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this series so far. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Ja had a bad game his first game. Definitely had a big bounce back. Almost had that triple-double. It's kind of going how I expected it to. Going into this series, I don't know if I expected the Minnesota Timberwolves to win game one, but I thought it was going to go back and forth. This is one of the series that I was like, if the Minnesota, this was a series that Minnesota wanted to get matched up with. Out of all the top teams in the Western Conference, the Grizzlies were the one team I think Minnesota actually wanted to get matched up with because I think they match up with them well. I think they have the energy to move with them up and down the court. That's probably the series I'm looking forward to the most in terms of watching. Hey, Brody, what's good, bro? Cam, man, what's up? How y'all doing? Just finished talking about the Grizzlies and Timberwolves series so far. Nothing too crazy about it, but we're going to move on to the next series on the list. We're getting all the ones I don't got much to say about away early. We're getting some of these out early. So we got the Heat versus the Hawks. And I want to say Rage talked about it. Rage said it in the beginning of the chat. Yeah, Trey got owned. I'm going to tell you right now, that series is going exactly how I expected it to. The Heat are the number one seed for a reason. And we're seeing that on full display with how well they're guarding Trae Young. They have him in prison. And it's not even just a one-on-one thing or it's just one defender. It's the Heat team. Because some screens, they're switching. Some screens, they're blitzing. Some screens, it's a hard hedge. Sometimes they go zone. Sometimes it's man. And if it's a zone, they're running a couple of different types of zone. They're not giving the Atlanta Hawks and Trae Young an opportunity to get into the flow of the game. They're just not. They're smothering them. And it's very, very impressive by Eric Spoelstra, in my opinion. But we also knew Eric Spoelstra was that guy in terms of coaching. We know what Eric Spoelstra brings to the coaching arena. So I'm not necessarily surprised. One thing I am surprised at, in Rage, I'm going to, Hawk, who do you think is better, Jimmy Butler or DeRozan? We're going to talk about that in a second. But one thing I did think was interesting, because since you asked about Jimmy Butler, was one thing I've been saying all season when it comes to the Miami Heat is, what are you getting from Jimmy Butler? Because some days he'll drop, 20. Some days you look up, he has 9. But in both of those games, his team might have the win. But I think in that last game, in game 2, when he dropped that 45, and especially down the stretch, hitting those threes, driving to the basket on that fast break, that nice little long 1-2 he did to finish with the left hand in the fast break situation. Down the stretch, Jimmy Butler, and basically the whole game, especially in the second half, but also just down that stretch, you saw Jimmy Butler looking like a superstar again. And then that gets you to have the conversation, or at least me having the thought of who, if this is the Jimmy Butler we're going to see in the playoffs, like if Jimmy Butler can turn on this superstardom in the playoffs, I think the Heat can make a legitimately long run into the playoffs. I think the Heat are dangerous. And honestly, after seeing that game, we'll have to see. Like I said, I don't want to think too much into it. Like I said at the top of the show, they've only played 2 games. They played 2 home games. The Heat did what they're supposed to do. They handled business at home. But the Heat are also the number 1 seed. They're the number 1 seed for a reason. They've been the number 1 seed pretty much almost all season. And the Hawks barely, I don't want to say barely made it into the playoffs, because they finished off the year a lot better than they started. And that's how they even got an opportunity to be in the play-in series. But yes, and it was with Bam having a bad game. I don't see the Heat losing to the Hawks. Now, they could surprise me. You know, sometimes, especially a young team like the Hawks, they can catch fire at home. That home crowd get behind them, and they may sneak and win a game 3 or a game 4. I definitely don't see them win them both. But it's not out of the question because they're a young team, and sometimes home crowds have that effect on young teams. But just looking at it in terms of just what I've seen in these first 2 games, how great of defense they've been playing on Trae Young, and that's the Hawks' whole offense. The Hawks' offense is Trae Young. So if Trae Young's not rolling, if Trae Young's not doing Trae Young things, the Hawks are going to struggle. Is it impossible for them to win? No. Do I see this potentially being a sweep now after seeing these first 2 games? Potentially, especially if Jimmy Butler can continue to be the type of Jimmy Butler we saw in game 2. Who asked? Rage asked if Jimmy's the better playoff performer than DeRozan so far. I don't know if I think it's just like, I'll put it this way. I think Jimmy Butler is, that's tough. That's really tough to call him the better playoff performer than DeRozan. Because if you look at their careers, they've both been to basically the same amount of success. They've both been to East. No, I don't know if Jimmy's been to Eastern Conference Finals, because he didn't get there with the Sixers. We got bounced out in the second round by the Clippers. By the Toronto. Lost to the Celtics. Yeah, I don't know if Jimmy's been to an Eastern Conference Finals. I know DeMar DeRozan's been to a couple of Eastern Conference Finals. Now, granted, I know these were a couple of years ago, especially we're talking to the DeMar DeRozan Toronto teams. And if you just look at them this season, I think they're very comparable. To me, it's hard to say who's better because, oh, yeah, thank you. He went to the finals of 2020. The 2020 basketball season sometimes is a blur for me simply because the season got broke up. The fact that season got broke up, I think of what teams were doing in the springtime, and it's like Jimmy wasn't there in the spring, but the 2020 finals were end of summer. My fault. That's on me. And he did look amazing in those 2020 finals. I just think from DeMar DeRozan, you get a more consistent level of play. If someone had Jimmy Butler over DeMar, I wouldn't be mad. If you had DeMar over Jimmy, I wouldn't be mad. I think with DeMar, you get a more consistent level of play. I think you're going to know what you get from DeMar a little bit more. That's all, in my opinion. Butler, you got Butler, better leadership, better rebounder, better passer, defender. Jimmy definitely has the defense, but you can make the argument DeMar has the scoring. So that's why I'm like, it's very back and forth for me. Mainly because I don't feel like, at least this season, if I'm just comparing this season, not years past, just looking at this season, and you can credit some of that to injury, especially the injuries that Jimmy been through, the injuries that team has been through. I just feel like I got a more consistent baseline from DeMar throughout the season. That's all. Bro says leadership. We try to fight the coach. Actually, looking back on that fight, I don't think it was looking back on that fight, I think it was just a moment that happened, and it just happened to be on the sideline instead of a locker room. But I remember we talked about it on the podcast. I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly what I said about it, but looking back on it now, I don't think too much of it because that's also who Jimmy is as a player. After watching a couple of his podcast interviews, I loved him on the Sixers, so I just think that's who he is. He's a energetic, just a fiery player. I don't know if that's a good adjective, but just a fiery player. So that's Jimmy. That's the Bulls and that's the Heat and the Hawks. We talked about the Wolves and the Grizzlies. We talked about the Bucks and the Bulls. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about these Warriors and Nuggets. Since I see y'all talking about pool in the chat. Right? The Golden State Warriors, I'll be honest, have even surprised me in that second game. That second game against the Nuggets, we're not even going to talk about the first game. The first game was really dope. But the second game, interesting. The second game, I was looking at a stat. The Warriors scored, was it 70 points in like 20 minutes? It was something wild like that. They basically they found a new death lineup. At the end of the day, that's what everybody was talking about. And when I was watching it, I remember tweeting it out. I was watching that game, and I'm watching the ball movement. I'm watching the amazing defense that's leading to fast break opportunities. I'm watching the off-ball player movement that's happening. And I literally say out loud to myself, I'm like, this is small ball Warriors lineup. Like, this is what the Warriors look like before KD got there. This is the Warriors with Harrison Barnes and just a whole lot of running around, a whole lot of movement, a whole lot of off-ball screening. Like, Jordan Poole's Harrison Barnes and Andrew Wiggins is Andre Iguodala. Like, they're playing amazing. They're playing absolutely amazing. And I'm watching the game and I'm thinking to myself, and I don't want to gas it up. We're gonna talk about Marcus Smart winning Depoy. It's on my notes. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't want to gas it up, but I'm like, I see why Draymond is Draymond. Like, you see it all the time, and we talk about how great of a defender Draymond Green is and how great of a playmaker and his leadership and stuff like that and what he brings to this Warriors team. But when you see him play great defense against an MVP candidate who had an amazing season in Nikola Jokic, and seeing Jokic get frustrated to the point that he gets his second tech and gets ejected from the game. Jokic just had 2 bad games in his first 2 games against this team. And it's not double teams. It's not other guys. A lot of it is Draymond Green guarding him 1v1 and being able to play amazing defense. There's not a lot of teams there's no other team, honestly, in my opinion, I think that could run a center as small as Draymond with Draymond's skill set and be able to guard Jokic one-on-one. Most teams can't guard Jokic one-on-one, and they have an actual center-sized person. Like, they have an actual center. And this is with Jokic doing the bodying up, trying to post up, things like that. Draymond's just built different. And I'm not even trying to gas him up because I don't want to feel like I'm gassing players, but I got to give him his praise because it's warranted. Because when I watch them play, when I watch the Warriors play, they can't play like this if Draymond can't play center. Their offense doesn't look this crazy with everybody running around and you literally can't keep up with their players if Draymond doesn't play center. Because if you have another center on the floor, now Draymond's running the 4 instead of the 5. It's a little bit slower, not as many shooters on the court. Like, a lot goes into it. It's scary. I'm not even, it looks amazing. Nuggets, you got to figure something out. Jokic has got to, I just talked about how great a defender Draymond Green is, and we all know how great of a defender Draymond Green is. But Jokic has got to make the Warriors not be able to just put Draymond on him. Or at least when Draymond isn't on him, he's got to take advantage and punish them for it. Like, he has to just punish them for it. I don't know what the solution is, but after these first 2 games, I think I initially had like the Warriors in 6. It might be like Warriors in 5. Like, it's only the first 2 games. They were home games. They're doing what they got to do. It's very interesting. I made sure to watch Draymond Green. I'm sure some of you might know Draymond Green has his own podcast. I think it's just called the Draymond Green Show. But today he dropped a kind of like just a. It was kind of dope because they dropped a Warriors breakdown. He basically broke down the 2 wins from his team. So it was nice to hear it from his perspective. And he had the right perspective on it. He was like, it's just 2 games. He did what we were supposed to. We won at home. But he talked about some of the things of being able to finally play with that 5-person lineup of Curry, Clay, Poole, Wiggins, and Draymond Green. They haven't had the opportunity to really run that lineup a lot this year due to injuries, whether it be Draymond's injury, Steph's injury. Like they haven't had a lot of time to run that lineup. And that game, I want to say this series is the first time they've been able to really get into it, really run it, and really work out some of the things. And seeing them play so good, seeing Jordan Poole play so well. And honestly, to me, the biggest thing about Jordan Poole's game, and I say this to myself all the time. I don't know if I said it on the show yet, but teams that have players who can just play basketball are dangerous. And what I mean that is teams that have players who can shoot, dribble, and pass. If you have a lot of those players, you're going to be a dangerous team. This is one of the things I said about the Suns. And now after seeing this 5-man rotation lineup from the Warriors, I feel the same way. Because if you have guys who can put the ball in the ground, who can shoot a little bit, or shoot amazing in the terms of, Steph, Clay, and even Poole's been shooting really, really impressive, and dribble and pass, like, it just makes your team so dangerous. So many times we saw Poole cutting, catch the ball. That behind the back pass he had to the rolling big was just really, really good basketball to watch. I don't want to sit here and go on and on about the Warriors all night, but very impressive. It looks like championship level basketball. I'll say that. They look like championship level basketball. I was a little curious to see what type of version we'd get of Steph Curry. Steph had an amazing game too. Absolutely amazing game too. Shout out to the Warriors, man. Shout out to the Warriors. What y'all talking about in here? The chat going crazy. Hawk, do you think the Warriors should trade Wiggins this offseason to give Poole a starting spot and get rid of the big salary? Do you think we can get a Miles Turner for Wiggins or something else that's not a rookie? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think you need Miles Turner. I don't think you need Miles Turner. You know why I don't think you need Miles Turner? Because Miles Turner, and I'm a big Miles fan. I like his play a lot. I don't think he's grown to be the player that I expected him to be a couple of years ago. But I think he's going to clog up the paint too much. I think he's going to stop the ball moving a little bit too much. I think Wiggins fits because Wiggins can play a 4. He can play a small 4. He can play the 3. He can get up and down a run. He can play some solid defense. I know his contract ain't small, but I wouldn't trade Wiggins. I'd keep him. And the reason I keep him because he's a Swiss Army knife. He can do a lot of stuff. He's one of those guys who can dribble, shoot, pass. And he can just also happen to play some good defense. And his rebounding has been amazing for them. Because Draymond's putting so much time boxing out Jokic and fighting against Jokic, Wiggins popping in for a couple of rebounds every now and then is really, really good for them. And I don't know if you'd get that I don't know if you'd get something equivalent to what fits in their system if you trade him away. Because I think, honestly, depending on what they want, how they want to do their lineup moving forward and stuff like that, once they put Steph back in the starting lineup, even if you decide to bring Poole off the bench, because they realize that 5-man small ball lineup works so well, we can look up and Poole could be off the bench, yes, but be putting up 27, 30 minutes a game as if he's a starter, very similar to what Tyler Hero does for the Miami Heat. Tyler Hero comes off the bench, but he gets starter minutes. That could be the type of role we see from Poole in these next couple of years, coming off the bench but getting starter minutes. I think that's a great opportunity for the Warriors, and I would not trade away Wiggins. I'd keep him. It's working. I wouldn't mess it up. Steph best 6 man of the year. That's facts, low key. I'm going to come back to the Marcus Smart thing. Curry last game got the record for quickest 30-point game, least amount of time in playoff history. Did not know that. That's what I'm talking about. Amazing game. Talking about the Pels. We'll go into that in a little bit. All right. Y'all talking about the Pels. Brody said, remember to like the stream. Brody trying to get that mod spot. You feel me? You know what I mean? Y'all trying to get that mod spot. I mean, granted, I don't have the opportunity to give mods yet, but because we're just not that big of a channel, but you know what I mean? We'll get there. All right. So since y'all are talking about the Pelicans Suns, that's the next on the list. We can go there. So the biggest thing we want to talk about here, two of the biggest things. The first one I'll say is the positive one. Brandon Ingram is that guy. Brandon Ingram had an amazing game too. Looked dominant, and I think this is perfect timing for Brandon Ingram because basketball fans are starting to pick up on the fact that Brandon Ingram is a hooper. Brandon Ingram is, I'll say the phrase, all-star caliber player. And what I mean by that is Very similar to how somebody like CJ McCollum is all-star caliber. It's just really hard to get an all-star spot in the Western Conference unless you're an all-NBA caliber player, because the West is just that good in terms of star power, especially that forward position. It sucks for him, but I think he can get to that point. But if you're a fan of the NBA and you watch a lot of games and stuff, you'll know Brandon Ingram is that guy. But I think this is an opportunity for him to put it on full display for the rest of the NBA fan world to see. He is already an all-star, but let me rephrase that. Well, but what I mean by that is Brandon Ingram's all-star appearances have been like fringe all-star, if that makes sense. I mean, he's like should be yearly all-star, like an all-star lock, if that makes sense. Brandon Ingram is given the opportunity to really show his talent on full display, show his skill set on full display. And he did that last night. 13 for 21, 69% from the field, 37 points. It's very, very impressive. And I'll be honest, I had to go back and watch a lot of this game because I didn't see it live, so I had to go back and watch a lot of the highlights. This is one of the games I missed. So I didn't even know when I woke up when I saw the box score at the end of the game, I didn't even know at first that my brain is all over the place, that Devin Booker got injured. So Devin Booker goes down with that injury. I'm getting his injury and Luka's injuries mixed up. So Luka has a calf strain. Devin Booker has a Do I have the Nets? Yeah, I have the Nets game running in the background. That's also why I'm half distracted, because when I look up, that's what hamstring. Dang. So with Devin Booker, hamstring injury, right? Likely to miss games 3 and 4 is the latest reports that I saw from Woj earlier today. Then you start to get in the conversation of, okay, what does this mean for this series? Because we saw when he went down, Brandon Ingram goes off, the Pelicans win game 2. I saw some people saying, oh, that means the Pelicans are going to win the series. I saw a lot of that on Twitter. I see, well, you might as well chalk up games 3 and 4 for the Pelicans. I don't know if I'd go that far yet. This is a series going into it. I had the Suns winning, and I believe I said like 5. I think because of Devin Booker's injury, depending on how severe it is, depending on if he can come back this series, they're already ruling him out for games 3 and 4. But this Suns team isn't just Devin Booker. He's a huge part of this Suns team, but it's not just Devin Booker. I think the Suns can still do it. I think it's going to go closer to like 7 games because of it, though, because I think the Pelicans are going to take advantage of it. A lot of the Suns' offense came from Devin Booker, but Chris Paul's still no slouch. And one of the things that I liked about the Suns so much is that they have a lot of guys who can hoop. Brody says, if the Pelicans win the series, I don't think Booker's injury is a valid excuse, because if you meant to be the best team in the league, you should survive without your best player. I don't think it'll be a quote-unquote excuse, but I don't think you can look at it and not say it held some impact. Because, like you said, he is their best player. Because, for example, to talk about my Sixers, if Joel Embiid goes down and misses a lot of games against the Raptors, would you all not be surprised if the Raptors beat the Sixers? Because I wouldn't be surprised if Joel Embiid goes down and can't play the rest of the series, and the Raptors win in like 7. Would I be that surprised? Probably not. Like, because that's the type of player Devin Booker is for his team. I love Chris Paul. Chris Paul's my guy, but Chris Paul is more so like you can call maybe Chris Paul the train conductor, but Devin Booker is the engine that makes that train go. You know. It sucks for the Suns because I had high hopes from him. And the thing that sucks so much for the Suns is because even if Devin Booker comes back, because it's a hamstring strain, depending on how he comes back, when he comes back, he probably won't be 100% going into the playoffs for like the rest of the playoffs. If he comes back, if they win this series, I wanted to see the Suns go all the way to the finals. Am I saying it's not possible now with Devin Booker being in and out of the lineup? No, that's not what I'm saying. But it's clear that Devin Booker is not going to be at 100%. And if Devin Booker's not at 100%, I don't know if I see the Suns winning. That kind of bummed me out a little bit, making that connection. But in terms of the Pelicans, I think this shows nothing but good things for their future. The ability that the fact that they made the play-in, the fact that they made the playoffs, they stole a game in Phoenix. all the pressure's off of them now. All the pressure is on the Suns to try to get one of those games back. Because technically right now the Pelicans now have home court advantage. So shout out to the Pelicans. Shout out to Ingram. Shout out to my guy CJ McCollum, even though he had a subpar game. Shout out to Brandon Ingram, man. Was a Sports Center or ESPN? One of them tweeted, it was like Brandon Hemgram, because everybody's like, he's him. It was a trash tweet. All right, let's move on to my Sixers. I just realized I didn't talk about them yet. I think all I got left is the Sixers and the we'll save the Jazz Mavs for last. I got a lot to say about that. I actually don't have that much to say about the Sixers series. The Sixers series is winning the series is when I was like, it's 2-0. I'm feeling good about it. I'm confident. But it's also like, it's 2-0. You won at home. You did what you're supposed to do. I feel a little bit better when we win a game in Toronto. I'm really curious to see what this team should be. I'm really curious to see what the Sixers would look like without Thibault in Canada, because he can't go there because he's not vaccinated. Go ahead and get the shot. Whatever. Without Thibault, I just really like his defense. I like the defense he's be able to play on a lot of the wings and guards that the Raptors have. But at the end of the day, they don't have the size to match up with Joel Embiid. And I think we're seeing that on full display. 29-19, though, right now. The Sixers and Toronto Raptors are playing right now. That's why I said that. It's currently 29-19. Toronto is winning with a minute left in the quarter. But the biggest takeaway for me from this series, Joel's doing what I thought he was going to do. He's having a pretty solid series. I'm not necessarily surprised at that. I said going into it, I don't think the Raptors have anybody who can really guard and stop Joel Embiid. But the biggest takeaway for me is the play from Tyrese Maxey. The biggest surprise, if you will, is the play from Tyrese Maxey. He had 32 in that first game, and then he had 23 in the second game. He's currently averaging 30 in the playoffs in this round. And he's playing very, very well. Super efficient, playing well. I know a lot of people going into it, myself included, was worried of like what version of James Harden we would get. If we get all-star level, superstar level of James Harden, I think the Sixers can legitimately have a chance of winning a title. If we don't get that, I don't necessarily know. But one thing going into this series, I know a lot of people were worried about was how good how good James Harden was going to be. And I think for at least me being a Sixers fan, and then this series against the Raptors, I'm no longer worried as much because at least so far, Tyrese Maxey has given me the production that I expected from James Harden. So if Tyrese Maxey can give me 25 plus a game, like he's been kind of sort of doing consistently, at least in the first two, like I said, it's just 2 games. And if James Harden, while he's shooting still abysmally, he was 3 for 9 in that first game, in the second game, 1 for 4 from 3. But if he can continue to do what he's been doing, which is distributing the ball, getting some assists, and just kind of sort of being out there, because as of right now, he's still a decoy, if you will. The Raptors on defense are shading more sorts towards him on pick and rolls, on his drives. It'll be interesting if they start to transition how they're guarding James Harden to more so focusing on Tyrese Maxey to see how that team, the Sixers, adjust that way, or if the Raptors decide to make that adjustment. But I'm liking what I'm seeing from my Sixers. And Cam, I see what you're saying. The public massively overrated the Raptors. I don't think they did, because when you look at the numbers, when you look at how they were playing in the calendar year, they were playing really, really well. The Raptors were playing very, very well, I think. And I meant to say this at the top of the show because I think it applies to a lot of teams. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't think those games are a way to view the Raps, as a lot of the teams have no experience of injuries in game 1. Exactly. Raptors are going through a lot of injuries. That's why I'm not overly thinking about these 2 first games from the Sixers. But I'm also like probably the most pessimistic Sixers fan you'll ever see. I try to keep it as real as possible with my Sixers. I don't want my heart to get broken like it got in 2018. That heartbreak I had in 2018, something different, bro. And I meant to say this at the top of the show. The playoffs are really all about matchups. Like, so much of the playoffs are really just about matchups. Like, because for example, this Raptors-Sixers series, the Raptors simply can't guard Joel Embiid. And it sucks in terms of their matchup. You know who I think they would match up better with? They'd probably match up a whole lot better with the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics. Do I think they would have gone and maybe won those series? Probably not still, because I think those teams are just better than the Raptors. There's a reason they're, the seeds they are and the Raptors are the seed they are. But when you just look at matchups, because you're just playing the same team over and over again, because so much of it comes down to what the adjustments the coaches make, the Raptors just simply don't match up well with Joel because they don't have the size to keep up with it. We talked all season about how well the Raptors have these lanky 6'8 plus guys, and they can just run this lineup that's like 6'6 and above, just a lot of lanky wings running around, playing amazing defense, running up and down the fast break. But when the game slows down and you start to feed Joel in the post, you realize they don't have anybody to guard him. But against the Heat, it probably would work a lot better because the Heat, they can post up Bam and Bam posts up, but he's not the physical dominance that is Joel Embiid. It's just little things like that I think about when I'm looking at the playoffs, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy the playoffs so much, because a lot of it is just, it's coaching tweaks, it's players making tweaks, it's players seeing things that they didn't see last game and making an adjustment for this game. That's the type of stuff that makes me really enjoy the NBA playoffs as opposed to, well, you already know I'm not a crazy football fan, but I like the one and done style of, I'll compare it to March Madness, because it's like, oh, anyone can win, and it's just this really hyper full of energy event, but it's anyone could win. The playoffs in the NBA is like, no. You know the better team won because we beat you 4 times. Just little stuff like that was really interesting to me. And since we were talking about the Raptors Sixers, that was one thing I thought going into it. Matchups mean a lot in the playoffs. And speaking of matchups meaning a lot, let's talk about these Jazz and this Mavericks series. It's currently 1-1. It's currently 1-1 without Luka Doncic. I saw a lot of discourse and chatter on Twitter and in the NBA podcast arena talking about Rudy Gobert and how he's not necessarily looking that great and stuff like that. And I don't know if I'm ready to put this on Rudy Gobert. And it's the same thing I've been saying going into this series. It's the same thing I've been saying all season. The Jazz have zero perimeter defense. The Jazz cannot guard anyone on the perimeter. And Luka's not even here. The Jazz are getting killed on the perimeter, and Luka's not even here. And I'm going to tell you what's going on. A lot of times, I saw it a lot, especially in that game too, where they play a lot of drop coverage on the pick and roll, meaning if Rudy's guarding the screener, he's so far low that it's a wide open 3 for the guard. It's a wide open driving lane for the guard. It's wide open 3 for the guard, mid-range pull-up, whatever. But it's such an easy play that the Dallas Mavericks can run over and over and over again because the Jazz's scheme is to guard the paint. And y'all know I talked about this before. I'm a big fan of the mismatch with Chris Vernon and Kevin O'Connor. And Chris Vernon said on today's episode or yesterday's episode, he's like, he doesn't get it either. He's like, why are we, for years, these last, I'll say 5 to 10 years, the idea around the NBA and the front offices, the coaching, and has evolved to realize that threes are worth more than twos. Threes over twos. Shoot the ball. Like, we talk about all the time how much the NBA has evolved and changed to value the three-point shot. So why in the world are the Jazz so concerned about layups? They're giving up wide open threes just so Rudy can protect the paint. And because of that, you're losing these games so bad. And if it happens again, because, we made the conversation when the same thing happened against the Clippers last year when Terrence Mann went crazy. Rudy Gobert, they were playing against the Nuggets and the bubble, I want to say, when Rudy Gobert when Jamal Murray dropped that 50 bomb because they were so much drop coverage. Jamal Murray was just walking into threes. Once a player gets hot in the NBA, it's even harder to stop them. So once a player does get hot, and then you start to try to move and switch up your defense, it's almost too late. Let me pull up what I was wanting to see, right? So Maxi Kleber, I want to put this in perspective of how bad the Jazz are defensively when it comes to just leaving players wide open for three. Maxi Kleber was 8 for 11 from three in that game too. That's 72%, right? I wrote it down. Since the All-Star break, though, he's been 18% from three. So you let a guy who's normally 18% from three go 72% from three. Now, granted, do I think he's going to do this in the next couple of games? No. 72% is absolutely wild. That's in a live game. But that goes to prove my point of they're not guarding the three-pointer. Jalen Brunson went 6 for 10. Reggie Bullock went 3 for 5. Anthony Smith went 3 for 9 even. Like, they're just letting players shoot. Spencer Dinwiddie went 1 for 6. Honestly, I don't necessarily see that happening again. They can't guard the perimeter. They're giving up too many threes. They're giving up corner threes. The pick and roll defense is atrocious in terms of defending the three-point shot. Rudy's still an amazing paint defender. And this is not me trying to slander Rudy. Rudy is still an amazing paint defender. But the Jazz have not figured out how to evolve with the times, and they're still playing as if everybody is Giannis and trying to get to the paint. Like, that's how they're playing basketball, as if the Western Conference is full of a bunch of Giannis's, full of a bunch of Joel Embiid's, full of a bunch of Jokic's, and everybody's trying to just get in the paint. It's too many shooters on the court. They're just killing the Jazz. And to be honest with you, going into this series, I said before, if Luka comes back, I had the Mavs winning. At this rate, after seeing these first two games, yeah, I know they won the first one, but after seeing these first two games, the Mavericks can beat the Jazz without Luka. The Mavericks could beat the Jazz without Luka. It sounds crazy, but I really think it's possible. And in terms of when Luka's coming back, from what I'm seeing, I mean, it ain't soon. What I just saw recently, Tim McMahon said Luka said he's feeling good, but isn't certain about Game 3. But Luka also says he will not play if there's a risk of re-aggravating the injury. That will be a major determining factor of when he's cleared to play. And I'm not mad at Luka for it. Basically, he's like, yo, if I'm not 100%, I'm not playing. And I'm not mad at it in this context because the Mavs aren't winning the championship anyway, so there's no point in re-injuring yourself. There's just no point. And in calf strain is exactly what KD had before he tore his Achilles. So there's no point in making it worse, aggravating it, potentially re-injuring or making it worse. If you're not championship contenders, just to beat the Jazz. Because as crazy as it sounds, you could probably beat the Jazz with the team you're putting out there right now. Y'all said JB going crazy? Oh, it's 70-77. All right. It's funny because I think that's the last game to talk about, the Celtics and Brooklyn series. So let's talk about that real quick, right? So right now, the Boston leads the series 7-1. At the time of this live, Brooklyn is up 77-70 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. This was that game one was actually one of the games I actually got to see live, and it was an absolutely amazing game. Absolutely amazing. Great defense from the Celtics throughout the game. Had Kevin Durant looking very... My dad had texted me during that game. He's like, why does KD look clumsy? And I was like, that's an amazing word to describe how he looks. The turnovers that were happening off the drives, getting stripped so much, dribbling off of feet and stuff like that. He literally just looked clumsy. Did not shoot the ball that great. And the Nets were still in the game. And the Celtics were in there battling. And it turns out, the Celtics win. Kevin Durant falls absolutely asleep on that last play and just lets Jason Tatum run right past him for the easy layup. Great. Dang, Brown. Speaking of losing the ball. Great pass for Marcus Smart to make that extra pass. And the biggest thing for me, that takeaway for me, was that just shows how much this team is buying in. That shows that the team is buying in, that they're looking for the extra pass almost at all times, all of them are willing to be passers and just move the ball a lot. Because last year, or heck, even probably back in December, November, Marcus Smart would have took that shot and probably missed. But now is willing to make the pass. I don't really have a crazy in-depth analysis of that Celtics-Nets game. Like I said, great defense from the Celtics, bad play from Kevin Durant. Great win for the Boston Celtics. Definitely something to be proud of. But considering there's only one game, you won off of a game winner in a game where Kevin Durant didn't play well. I don't necessarily see him playing as bad as he did again, or at least 3 more times for you to get 3 more wins. So it'll be really interesting to see how the series goes. Like I said, I don't have much to say about it. And as I'm watching, the game's on now, but I'm not really watching it. I'm hanging out here with y'all. So, and next year's gonna be even more stacked. I reckon Bulls will be healthy, Pels will be healthy, Clippers will be healthy, Nets will be healthy. Yeah, that's definitely possible. But the crazy thing about the NBA, Brody, I guarantee you somebody's gonna be injured. That's just the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, somebody's always injured because going into this season, we at least thought Paul George was going to be here all season, but then he gets injured, and we were expecting to see Kawhi this year. And honestly, if Paul George was healthy and the Clippers were a higher seed, we probably would have saw Kawhi. But because they were a play-in team, then Paul George gets COVID. Towards the end, I was like, all right, we're not seeing Kawhi. But if Paul George plays all season, we probably would have saw Kawhi this year. So, yeah, in theory, when everyone's healthy, it'll be better, but no one's ever healthy. Yeah, turn the injuries off like it's 2K. Definitely going to be probably a shorter episode today. Well, I say shorter, but we're already at 50 minutes. Last thing before we get out of here, I want to talk about the Defensive Player of the Year. If you haven't heard yet, Marcus Smart now won Defensive Player of the Year. My pick was Rudy Gobert because, I mean, although the Jazz have, I think, the 10th best defense in the league, they're only that high because of Rudy Gobert. But honestly, I'm really happy for Marcus Smart. I think he's well-deserving. He was my second pick. Because I've said it before, the Celtics defense is amazing. They completely did a 180 in terms of how good their defense was since the beginning of January. And a lot of it is him at the helm. He's their point of attack defender. He guards the other team's best offensive players a lot of times, especially at the guard position, obviously. He's talkative. He does what centers do in terms of talking, calling out stuff, and talking the defense up. But he does it at the guard position, which is really, really impressive. The first guard to do it since Gary Payton, I believe. The other guard to do it is Michael Jordan. So it's definitely some rare air for him. Well-deserved. I'm not mad at the pick at all. I didn't think I would be mad at the pick. None of the candidates that were the finalists, I thought they were all well-deserving. Shout out to Marcus Smart, man. He deserves it. I think it finally showcased him on a mainstream platform of how good a defender he was. A lot of people knew Marcus Smart was a good defender, but I don't know if a lot of people thought he was Defensive Player of the Year type good defender. And I think this year he showed that, so I'm happy for him. Lakers finna be dark horses. Without injuries, the Lakers are a top 4 seed. Believe me, bro. That's tough for me to say. Top 4 seed? But then he just listed off the Clippers, Suns, Warriors, Nuggets. The Lakers are talented, don't get me wrong. If they're healthy, they're definitely at least a playoff team. But it's so hard for me to I know you, Cam. It's so hard for me to say where the Lakers would be healthy. One, because we didn't see them healthy. But the main reason is, two, I didn't think they were going to work out going into the season, even when they were healthy. I saw them. I think I had them being a 5 seed, maybe a 4 seed, but a 5-4 seed going into this regular season. But I think that's all I got for you guys today. I need to record some TikToks and stuff, so I think I'm gonna do that because I haven't uploaded a new TikTok or a new Pirtle in 4 days, 3-4 days. All my stuff that I've uploaded recently has been just either a quick record or something I pre-recorded. So thanks for rocking with me, guys. Thanks for rocking with me today, guys. And as you can see, I be swearing I got dyslexia or something because the way I rearrange words before I say them make no sense sometimes. Thanks for rocking with me. I see you guys next week, and I'm going to enjoy some playoff basketball. I'm going to go check on my Sixers, see what that score is looking like. I'm out of here. Peace.